Good evening. This is Defacto review for this week. We highlight this time two important events happened last week in Mongolia. First, the Great Khural approved the budget for 2024. Is this budget election budget? That's the question we will try to answer. Second, Mongolia had finally opened crime center or cybercrime center to combat cyber crimes. So what can we do more? These are two questions we will try to answer today. First, about the state budget. According to the state budget law, every year by mid of November, the budget law must be approved. Usually they do all the time to the almost midnight of that day, but this time the parliament had approved 3 days before the deadline. Why? I will tell you why. Well, first, about some statistics of this budget. GDP Mongolia is expected to be 75 trillion MNT, the largest size of economy and as well largest size of budget income, budget revenue. Budget revenue is expected to be or planned to be budgeted to be 26 trillion. The expenses will be 27.5 trillion MNT, which makes 1.5 trillion MNT state deficit, budget deficit, which is equivalent of 2% of GDP. This is the law, should be under 2%. But this budget was this time surprisingly not deducted or reduced by the parliament, which usually happens. But this time, even they have increased the revenue by 565 billion and expenses by 200 billion. Why? Because Parliament had specified or entitled these expenses of 3 billion MNT per each Parliament member. We have 76 of them, and from next election we will have 128 of them. I'm afraid what will happen next time at the election when we have 50 more parliament members. Anyway, this 3 billion MNT per each parliament member or its constituency will make 228 billion MNT. And no surprise why the expenses of the budget was increased by 200 billion. Revenue-wise, they have increased, as I said, 565 billion MNT, because they are very optimistically considered the price per copper per ton, 9,000, which was 8,670 USD for last year or for the current year to 2023, what was planned at that price. Now it's increased almost $330 per ton, or let it be. But the price per ton of coal is not changing, 140 million US dollar per ton. So this is short description of the budget as it is now, as approved. But there is two things I would like to tell. The economy has increased 6% for this 2023, expected to be 6%, and 2024 it will be 7%. Inflation is planned to have around 8.5%. In terms of government debt, which still keep increasing, this year 32 trillion MNT. This year, 32 billion MNT. Planned year, 35. Increase. The debt ratio to GDP was this year 44, next year 43%. Limit is 60%. And by saying that, the Minister of Finance said that we still have adequate space to the ceiling of the debt. So why we say it is a more election budget rather than the state budget? Because with the simple reason, first, it is increased per parliament member expenses by 3 billion MT. One. Certainly, they have not, in spite of this high growth of the economy and the big tax revenue, they have still the budget with deficit. The third, they will increase public officer salary from April 1st by 10%. And the election comes in June. So they could increase it earlier or after. Not yet, but they will do it before. So all these things say that this budget is more election syndrome budget. And we should be watching further not to have, again, this kind of situations every year, in particular for the next election year, when we have 128 parliament members, not 76. That's the first issue. Second issue we highlight this time is about creation of cybercrime center in Mongolia. As we know, in many other countries, those centers have been created long time ago. In Europe, in 2013, 10 years ago, it was created. So at the General Police Department, we have now a new center, Cybercrime Center. And what the center will do. Now, first of all, the cybercrimes in Mongolia are so far consisting of three things. One is cyber fraud, cyber attack, and cyber gambling. For the last 5 years, total cyber fraud was 14,000, which is 5 times increase year to year, and out of which 97% are happen in cyberspace. So what the center will do, first of all, through the phone call 102, you dial 102, then there will, if it is cybercrime call, it will be immediately, almost at the moment, they will froze your or the victim accounts, because the victim is usually calling and he will tell the account, and they will have now capacity to immediately freeze that his account, which is a substantial help. And because the center creation, they have also a Facebook page, Cybercrime Combating Center. We send message and the same effect. And through the center, the expectation is there will be half of the crime will be prevented. What was happening before is you call there, announce about this crime, then you come in person next day or in person, and then they will open the file and investigate. It takes longer time, and they lose time, and the crime happens anyway. So for 9 days, for past 9 days, they got the center got 81 calls. As a result, they stopped 74 million MNT transactions, for example. So since the creation, the center had limited access from Mongolia to 3,500 domains of this character, international domain. So Mongolians cannot access from Mongolia, 3,500. And they requested Communication Regulatory Commission, about 100 web who is supporting the cybercrime, mostly the gaming things. And as a result, during this since the creation, 2,715 accounts money, total 4.6 billion MNT transactions are frozen. So the facts say that this center is helpful. Recently also, one policeman was announced or posted about one policeman post saying that he's getting bribes to allow cyber illegal gambling. But the center had said that this policeman is still working in the center, and he would do until the court, whoever, proves that he is that criminal. And there is also a suspicion that because of this closures of websites and because of this combating, they may be issuing some this kind of claims to the police people. So Mongolia has now a cyber crime center, but it is not enough, as the history or another facts suggest, because combating cybercrime is not only this center business. It is also to be supported by public and private sector stakeholders alongside with this police, because it has to do with all parts, spheres of our life, and all are in that risk. Because our life is becoming daily more digital, more smart, and it gives not only good opportunity for saving time, making our life better, or business opportunities more, but it also gives more opportunity to criminals who would use this change of technology. Even they would use faster than the general consumers. So it is a business of everybody. Secondly, if the cybercrime happens or cyber attack happens to critical infrastructure, like in many countries happen, power management, electric power management, healthcare centers, then we have not yet this kind of evident crimes yet. But if it happens, it will have very serious consequences. That's why we all need to know, be aware, and understand what is a cybercrime. And we should have, by all means, this cyber crime center of Mongolia. And now this is the election circle now. Misinformation, disinformation, fake news are also a crime. So that means that Mongolian citizens is to be digitally literate and understanding their responsibility and cooperating with the center and all the related other bodies who are fighting cyber crimes in Mongolia. So this is our second topic. We covered today two topics of last week's event. First is state budget, what happened, and the second about this new center, cybercrime center of Mongolia. Thank you very much for watching us. See you next week.